Is Ananta going to be a game changer to the gacha gaming space as a whole? Maybe, and let me explain. Originally announced by NetEase back in August of 2023, labelled as Project Mugen, developed by Naked Rain, the game was shown off via a small teaser trailer, which showed off the game's urban city-like setting, its roster of visually striking anime characters, and scripted combat segments akin to other gacha games like Zenless Zone Zero. Publicly, it was very well received, and people were very quick to express their interest online. After the announcement, the game went silent for quite a while, but sprung back up here and there with the odd interview from the devs and news of closed technical tests, which were common in these types of styles of games. But it wasn't until November of 2024 when the game would come back into public light in the form of an even fancier, more bombastic and more polished look. Only this time it was no longer Project Mugen, it had now been rebranded as Ananta. The footage on display was quick to show the grand scope of the game's world, its versatility, the characters, the activities you can do. It all looked a little too good to be true. Since its rebranding, more technical tests have been had behind closed doors in which snippets of said technical tests had been leaking out slowly, but it wasn't until recently, and by that I mean Tokyo Game Show 2025, where they came back with a 7-minute trailer showing off just how far the game has come and still how much further the game has to go. On top of the 7 minutes of trailer footage, they were also quick to release previews through media outlets, hands-on at the showcase, and even an extended version of the trailer which ran up to 10 minutes showing even more scripted action set pieces and more gameplay centric mechanics. There is a lot to unpack here, but for the most part it's not lying about what it is. It's not hiding anything, it's pulling all its punches and putting its best foot forward, albeit on the foundations of mechanics from many other games which you will recognise. And that's not a bad thing per se, but I'll get to that in a minute. A lot of changes were made between its last proper trailer and this one, the lack of the female main character for instance, and instead chose to focus on just the male protagonist. Now granted, this could be something they show off to the public later, as even the male main character has had their design changed now twice, and it's maybe just an instance of they weren't ready to show off the female main character yet. The environments on display were way more packed and dense, more NPCs on screen, more cars, more scripted chaos, and it is a lot to take in, but the latest trailer went one step further and showed off its character swapping. Now with most gacha games you usually just swap characters on the fly, but Ananta is wearing its GTA inspirations on its sleeve and goes for a more GTA 5 style approach of the whole zooming out onto the world map and then back into another location where a character is doing a task or activity. Personally, I feel like this fits really well within the setting of this game, and sure, it's borderline the same mechanic, but nothing is ever original anymore and derives usually from somewhere else. It's about what stamp you want to put on it. Now with Ananta here, in theory, can take advantage of what the devs are saying is their characters have their own bespoke gameplay, and I don't just mean combat styles. We've seen in the trailer one of the characters is part of the police force and has a completely different style of gameplay to the main character, whose main perk is mainly just swinging around the city akin to Spider-Man, and once again it's not quite on the nose but the inspirations are apparent. There is other characters that also are technically jobless, and other characters that are delivery couriers. There is a multitude of gameplay types on display here. And NetEase went one step further and said unemployed characters could even get jobs within the world. So there's a lot to really grasp at here, but it's not also clear how ambitious or how in-depth these said gameplay systems will be. But it's only a matter of time before we find out more information at this rate with how quick it's progressing. NetEase and Naked Rain have confirmed the game has around 800 developers making the title, and with the scale, visuals on display and the overall ambition, it is quick to believe this number of people on the project. I am skeptical of whether the ambition is too much, as time and time again we have seen games with too many hands on. I'm looking at games like Diablo 4, or even games like Call of Duty. Actually, that just seems to be more of an Activision problem, and it tends to buckle and release in a very broken state. However, not only is it borderline over ambitious, the game is free to play, which makes you wonder how on earth they plan to monetize it. Now you would say, oh Sean, it's a gacha game, they will be via the characters. Well, the devs have confirmed the characters aren't part of the gacha. All characters will be accessible through play or unlocked through play. They themselves even commented they're not even entirely sure what direction to take the monetization, but are leaning into the game's more urban lifestyle of cars and clothing customization. You can still buy stuff with the in-game currency, but more exotic items will be locked instead behind presumably fixed value premium currency. Just note as well that they said clothing will also work on every character, making the idea of pulling for an outfit or buying an outfit more lucrative to the player in the long term. So not only is it free, but it's defying current China-based made gacha trends of having the characters be the main big-time money sink. And I'm looking at you, Hoyoverse. It's also sounding too good to be true, but even so, the devs are quick to say they are all hands on deck, and the game has a long way to go. While there is plenty of gameplay demos online to watch, there is still some jankiness on display, with the bugs in animations and performance stuttering. But what has been shown at the Tokyo Game Show kiosk sessions is that the game is pretty much playing as advertised, and that's the best compliment we can give it. The production on display here is rivaling or surpassing many of the AAA games in the current space, and on top of that, it's a free-to-play experience. Now, going back on some of the mechanics, I do understand the trepidation a lot of online feedback has had in regards to this game. A lot of the segments in the trailers and footage are heavily scripted and also very inspired by many other games on the market. GTA, Saints Row, Uncharted, Spider-Man, Arkham series, just to name a few, and it is in some ways leading people to believe it's a soulless cash grab and doesn't have a case of its own identity. However, I think it's a little too early to place bets in this mindset, as they could just be showing off more polished bits without showing much of the in-between. There is time to adapt and change things to bring something more unique to the table, but there is nothing wrong with them copying popular and proven mechanics in modern gaming. It's all about how you use them, and so far it looks like Ananta is having fun with them, and that's the main thing. In the long term, when it comes to release and roadmaps, all we know is that the game is planning to release sometime in Q2 of 2026, which really isn't far away, and while it won't be a GTA 6 killer as many people in the online space always like to compare, these are very different experiences. And I do think, however, that this game has the potential, if executed well, to disrupt the industry as a whole and show how a premium free-to-play experience genuinely is, not only on your PC but console. Now, I said console and PC and didn't say mobile, which isn't common when it comes to games like this, right? Well, unfortunately, the devs have commented at launch the game won't be on mobile, but will be coming sometime later. I'll imagine this will be down to the sheer size of the game, not the world size itself, but the file size. A lot of optimizations will be needed to make it run efficiently on a broad array of phones, so I think for now it's a safe bet to get the game running essentially without constraint on PCs and consoles first. Now, after release, they have said they're not entirely sure how to go about the patch cycles and content release schedules, but usually with most gacha style games, it's around a month and a half before you get your next patch, which expands the story, the character roster, quality of life updates, you get some in-game events, game modes get added in, and sort of the cycle repeats for a few patches before you hit the next major patch, which tends to just be more of the same but on a larger scale, bigger story expansion, more characters to choose from, bigger locations to visit, but generally that's the major pattern when it comes to these games. Now, the devs have alluded that the idea of adding new cities to the game, which alone is crazy to think about when we already see the size of the currency. I really hope they decide to more add depth to this world rather than look to just move on. It's nice having a big sandbox to play in, as long as the depth is deeper than a puddle. And by that I mean a lot of these games, they tend to put a lot of focus on the visual storytelling, the visual side of the environments, and it tends to be a very shallow experience. Honkai Star Rail, Genshin Impact, Wuthering Waves, they're all very similar in that they look beautiful, they have places to explore, there isn't much to do in them. And that's why I really hope Ananta embraces its urban setting more with its different mechanical styles and different jobs, different environmental activities. I hope it really leans into that and becomes more of a GTA Online space rather than, say, the traditional gacha space. They have also commented on multiplayer being a post-launch thing akin to GTA Online, hence I make the comparison earlier. So instead of using the characters in the solo mode, you create your own avatar and roam about the world in a multiplayer space. They are quick to quell any questions regarding this that leads me to believe that they have yet to stick to a given concept for it, so I'll leave it there for now. So Ananta has a lot going for it in the long haul if it sticks its landing, which I feel like we have a strong case of that occurring. It also has the opportunity to carve its own path in the market with its approach to gameplay options and monetization. I like the urban setting of this game, and there isn't that many games that are anime urban. Just think Zenless Zone Zero or the upcoming Never This to Everness from Hotter Studio, which to be fair is closer to Ananta but is still really lacking a lot of the gameplay variety on display here. So what do you all think? Does Ananta have what it takes to shake up the gacha or free-to-play gaming space as a whole? I would love to know your thoughts, and if you like what you saw, come and give me a like and a subscribe, or if you're watching this on my other socials, a follow on those platforms, and I will catch you once again in the next video. Take care everybody.